It began with a voicemail no one remembered recording. "Don't describe the eyes," the message said, soft, deliberate, almost pleading. At 3:07 a.m., the host of Glass Hour, a true crime companion, was finalizing an episode on missing hikers when the studio lights flickered and his monitor froze. The waveform on his screen stretched into a perfect curve, sharp at both ends, like the slit of an amber pupil. He thought it was an editing glitch until the file saved itself under a new name, thefox.mmp3. He hit play, a man's breath, a low hum, mechanical and human all at once. Then the whisper again, closer. "You've already seen me." That was when the fox-eyed man stepped out of the folklore forums and into the host's hard drive. The next morning, an email arrived from an address that shouldn't exist, foxarchive@glasshour.fm. It contained one attachment, a photo of a living room window reflecting the silhouette of a man. Eyes like light caught in amber glass, no face, no shadow, just the eyes. The timestamp on the photo read 3:07 a.m., the same minute his recorder had glitched. The sender's name was blank. He opened the file properties, hoping to trace its origin, but the GPS coordinates pointed to his own apartment. The first rule of urban legends: they spread because we feed them. He just didn't know he was already the host. By the following week, listeners began sending their own stories. Different cities, same details. A man watching from reflections, car mirrors, black screen phones, water in kitchen sinks. Always the same eyes, always at 3:07. He compiled the cases on a map. The pattern formed a rough spiral across the Midwest, narrowing toward his hometown. The comment sections filled with timestamps and theories, pareidolia, psychosis, ARG, marketing. But one listener wrote, "If you slow the hum, it forms words." He did. Hidden under the static was a sentence: "He watches when you look away." That night, his reflection blinked first. The show's analytics exploded. Every upload after midnight pulled double the numbers, even ones he hadn't published yet. When he checked the queue, he found scheduled episodes titled Fox-Eyed Man, Part 2, Part 3, Finale. Each contained audio he'd never recorded, his own voice reading case notes that didn't exist. In one, he said, "He's standing behind me." He replayed it, and the room temperature dropped 3 degrees. The file updated itself while it played. He stopped sleeping with lights off, mirrors covered, camera LED taped over, but reflections don't need glass. Sometimes they use sound. On a live stream, viewers caught a frame where the host's pupils flashed gold. The chat filled with one line copied hundreds of times. "He's learning to look through him." The stream ended abruptly. The last sound wasn't static. It was breathing that matched his own. "True crime," he'd once said, "is about evidence." Now the evidence was watching back. He tried to debunk it like any good investigator would. He replayed the audio from every case that mentioned the fox-eyed man, isolating the background frequencies one by one. But the hum wasn't random. It appeared in perfect 6-second loops, identical across every submission, regardless of device format or compression. When he layered them together, the peaks aligned, creating a shape in the spectrogram that looked like an eye. Elongated, slitted, unmistakable, He posted the finding to his subreddit, hoping for rational explanations. Bad encoding, shared templates, even coordinated trolling. But the thread vanished within minutes. In its place appeared a single comment from a deleted user. Stop aligning them. He sees clearer that way. He laughed it off until his monitor's webcam light flicked on by itself and stayed there, steady, unblinking amber. It wasn't that the pattern formed an eye. It was that the eye blinked back. Desperate for grounding, he reached out to one of the earliest witnesses, a woman named Clara Densmore, who had once called herself a skeptic. She'd been photographing abandoned motels for an art project when she caught a man reflected in every broken mirror, closer in each frame. When she developed the negatives, the last one showed him behind her shoulder, smiling. She quit photography the same week. In their recorded call, her voice trembled. He doesn't want to be found. He wants to be remembered. At the end of the interview, he asked where she was calling from. The line went dead, replaced by the low hum. 6 seconds exactly. When he checked his files, her name had already been added to the missing persons registry. Every witness vanished after being heard. That night, a package arrived without a return address. Inside lay a reel-to-reel tape and a Polaroid of his own front door taken from the street. On the back, in fading ink, play only once. He threaded the tape through his recorder, hit play, and listened. A man's voice, calm, articulate, began reading his latest episode script word for word, including mistakes he hadn't yet made. At timestamp 3:07, the voice paused and said, "You're standing too close." He turned, expecting a prank, but the room was empty except for the faint scent of ozone, like air before lightning. When he played it again, the tape was blank. Whatever spoke on that tape wasn't predicting. It was remembering. By week's end, paranoia replaced sleep. He set up a camera facing the mirror in his studio, planning to record all night. At sunrise, he reviewed the footage frame by frame. Nothing until 3:07 a.m. In that single frame, his reflection had amber eyes, and behind it, another figure perfectly mirroring his movements, a fraction late. He slowed the footage to quarter speed. The hum emerged again, low and rhythmic, pulsing with his heartbeat. He uploaded it privately to test compression artifacts, but the next morning it had 40,000 views and a title he never wrote. Look behind you. The algorithm wasn't recommending his content anymore. It was creating it. His friend stopped answering calls. His co-host quit after receiving a photo of her own reflection blinking mid-smile while she slept. He tried deleting the series, but every folder regenerated under new names. Fox Eyes /307/See Me. Each file contained the same 3-note tone, the hum reduced to melody. At first it sounded mechanical, then it began syncing with his breath. When he turned off his PC, the tone continued through the walls, vibrating in the pipes, in the window glass, in his teeth. He realized the broadcast wasn't leaving the internet anymore. It was using him as the signal. The fox-eyed man didn't need a transmitter. He'd already found a host. He brought in a sound engineer, a friend from college named Luke, who'd worked in broadcast restoration. Luke laughed when he heard the story. until he ran the frequencies through spectral analysis. The hum wasn't a single tone. It was a chorus of layered human breaths stitched into a repeating wave. Each inhale and exhale carried trace signatures matching the voices of missing persons linked to the fox-eyed man cases. Hundreds of them. Luke tried to normalize the audio, but the waveform shifted, self-correcting back into that same curved eye shape. They sat in silence as the monitors pulsed with amber light from the waveform's peaks. "Can't fake that," Luke whispered. The lights flickered once, then the speakers hissed out a phrase, "Now you see me." Luke yanked the plug from the wall, but the sound didn't stop. It resonated from inside the unplugged computer tower. Whatever the hum was, it didn't need power, only attention. A week later, radio stations across 3 states reported hijacked frequencies. Between songs, listeners heard a 6-second burst of the same hum, always followed by silence and a caller ID tone reading unknown 307. When he tuned in, his own voice introduced the next episode of Glass Hour. It hadn't been recorded, it hadn't even been written. He tried to trace the stream, but the IP originated from an impossible location, his own router, time-stamped hours before he'd logged on. That night, his inbox filled with new listener emails all titled, "I saw him too." Each contained a single image attachment, reflections, eyes, faces blurred by motion, but one photo stopped him cold. It showed his apartment window from across the street. The reflection in the glass wasn't him. The world was starting to listen back. Sleep became impossible. The hum wasn't background anymore. It was inside every silence, threading through the quiet moments between thoughts. He started recording voice memos just to prove to himself he still existed. Playback revealed gaps, full minutes of nothing, replaced by faint breathing that wasn't his. He checked his mirrors daily, counting seconds before they blinked first. When they didn't, he began draping black sheets over every reflective surface in his flat. The neighbors said they heard someone talking inside when he wasn't home, a voice repeating his name softly, patiently, like a rehearsal. He began to wonder if the fox-eyed man wasn't stalking him at all. Maybe he was what came through when we looked too hard into absence. He'd spent years narrating the darkness. Now the darkness had learned to narrate him. The final live stream was never meant to air. He hit record, not broadcast, but something bypassed the interface and sent the feed live to thousands of viewers. They saw a man pacing his studio, muttering to himself, mirrors covered, lights dim. He stopped mid-sentence, turned toward the camera, and froze. The feed glitched once. His pupils flashed amber. And then another figure appeared just behind him, half visible in the shadow, wearing his exact clothes. The chat flooded with the same message, line after line. Look at his eyes. The figure leaned forward until its face filled the frame. Not identical, not human, but something wearing recognition like a borrowed mask. Then the feed cut to black. The stream never stopped recording, it just changed hands. The channel went silent for 2 weeks. When it came back, Glass Hour uploaded a new episode automatically. True Crimes Unsolved, The Fox-Eyed Man, Final Transmission. It opened with static, then his voice, calm, rehearsed, but slower. Every recording remembers what heard it, he said. Eventually, memory looks back. At timestamp 3:07, listeners reported the sound of breathing layered under his words. 2 sets, one echoing slightly behind. The final seconds were a whisper. Don't describe the eyes. The waveform of the episode, when inverted, revealed an image, 2 amber lights side by side staring out. For once, the upload didn't trend under true crime. It trended under religion. The official report listed it as missing adult, presumed voluntary. No forced entry, no struggle. His apartment looked untouched, except for the mirrors, all draped in black fabric, edges pinned with thumbtacks like funerary veils. On the desk sat his microphone, still live, recording silence for exactly 307 minutes before stopping. The file name, final_I.wav. When detectives played it back, they heard a low hum, faint but constant, layered beneath ambient room noise. At the 6-minute mark, someone whispered, "He's looking through yours now." The investigator pulled off her headset, pale. They assumed it was an audio glitch until her phone camera turned on by itself and captured her reflection blinking twice, though her eyes were closed. The first detective on the case resigned the next day. The online community filled the void he left behind. Dozens of fans formed Project 307, an amateur network dedicated to piecing together every trace of the fox-eyed man phenomenon. They mapped frequencies, timestamps, coordinates. What they found shouldn't have been possible. Every file, every broadcast, every mirror capture aligned perfectly along a vertical axis that cut across the country, like a tower built from data itself. One user slowed the hum to 1,000th speed and claimed to hear faint syllables hidden inside. "We see you too." Others reported screens flickering at 3:07 a.m., browsers opening to empty search bars that filled in a single word automatically. Remember, the deeper they searched, the louder it got. Months later, a journalist named Evelyn Kaur took the story mainstream. Her exposé, "The Man Who Vanished into His Own Recording," trended for weeks. She interviewed witnesses, archived emails, even tracked down Luke, the sound engineer who refused to speak on record. He only said one thing before hanging up: "You can't write about him without hearing it." That night, Evelyn's voice recorder switched on at 3:07 a.m. She didn't notice until playback revealed 12 seconds of breathing between her questions. When she checked the waveform, the shape was the same as the eye. The article, still published, beautifully written, hauntingly detailed. But readers noticed something else. If you highlighted the white space between paragraphs, faint amber symbols appeared. Don't describe the eyes. The warning was written in her own metadata. A year later, Glass Hour's RSS feed came back online. No password resets, no alerts, just a new upload titled "Live Again." Listeners tuned in expecting static. Instead, they heard him. Same voice, same cadence, but slower, colder. He spoke as if from underwater. You wanted proof of the fox-eyed man. You built it. You fed it. Then silence. The episode's runtime was 3 minutes and 7 seconds. When the audio ended, devices across the world began recording automatically. Phones, baby monitors, dash cams. Each captured the same final word whispered in perfect sync: See, the broadcast wasn't coming from a tower anymore. It was coming from inside everything that could listen. The hum became a frequency without origin, detectable on radios, microwaves, Wi-Fi routers, even pacemakers. Hospitals reported machines beeping in unison at 3:07 a.m. Dogs howled toward blank TV screens. In one town, a school intercom turned itself on during morning announcements and played a single tone that made every fluorescent light flicker amber. The phenomenon spread faster than it could be studied. Scientists called it the reflective event. But the old listeners of Glass Hour had another name. They called it the eye-opening. Somewhere between faith and feedback, the fox-eyed man finally stopped being a story. He became a signal. They started calling themselves the listeners. What began as a niche online forum became something closer to religion. Members claimed the hum could heal them, align them, reveal the true reflection. They met in darkened basements and abandoned drive-ins, each bringing a reflective surface, a mirror, a phone screen, even a bowl of water, facing east at 3:07 a.m. They said that if you stared long enough, you'd see not your face, but the version of you that still remembered him. Police raided a gathering in Missouri after reports of chanting, but found nothing except 47 mirrors, all fogged from the inside. A single phrase was etched across the largest one: eyes opened. The cult didn't worship him. They believed they were him, scattered pieces learning how to look back together. By the end of that winter, small towns across the Midwest began reporting synchronized blackouts. Power grids failed for exactly 6 minutes and 14 seconds at 3:07 a.m. 6 and 14, the numerical inverse of the original hum's frequencies. During each outage, witnesses described seeing their television screens glow faint amber, pulsing like a heartbeat. Those who stared too long claimed they could hear the faint murmur of someone asking, "Do you live here?" The phrase spread across radio chatter, graffiti, even medical transcriptions. Hospitals logged patients murmuring the same question in their sleep. And when the lights came back, mirrors in every affected home showed a faint residue, like breath that refused to fade. The darkness wasn't absence anymore, it was transmission. Federal agencies couldn't ignore it any longer. Teams from the FCC and Department of Energy deployed mobile scanners to triangulate the source. Their instruments overloaded within minutes, registering frequencies beyond human hearing, bursts of electromagnetic distortion synchronized with heartbeat patterns. One declassified memo described it as a language of pressure. Every attempt to jam the signal failed. Even unplugged devices continued to vibrate faintly at 3:07 a.m. A leaked report from Project KILN suggested the hum wasn't being broadcast outward. It was being reflected inward, bounced back from every connected machine, every listener, amplified by curiosity itself. They realized too late that the fox-eyed man didn't hijack the signal. He was the signal. It began subtly. Faint flashes of light in bathroom mirrors, distorted reflections lagging by fractions of a second. Then came the voices, not loud, but conversational, as if someone was standing just behind the glass. People reported hearing their names spoken in their own tone of voice. A woman in Nebraska filmed her mirror fogging up to reveal reversed handwriting spelling "still watching." When she posted it online, The upload contained no audio, just a 6-second hum that formed an amber eye in the waveform. The clip spread to millions overnight. Commenters noticed something stranger. Each time it was re-uploaded, the reflection behind her grew clearer. The mirror wasn't reflecting her anymore. It was recording what she hadn't done yet. Evelyn Kaur, the journalist, came back one final time. Her last transmission aired on pirate frequencies hijacked from abandoned AM stations. In it, her voice trembled. He's not a man. He's the memory of being seen. She claimed the fox-eyed man was never physical, that he existed only in observation, born from every moment humanity stared into static and asked for meaning. Her broadcast ended mid-sentence, but the spectrogram of her voice revealed coordinates, the same stretch of land where the first hum was recorded decades ago. When search teams arrived, they found nothing except a circle of blackened grass and a single reel-to-reel recorder still turning, tape unspooling into the wind. The tape was blank, except for the faint sound of someone breathing in. It began on a Wednesday night, April 12, 1999. Every television in North America flickered to static at the same moment, regardless of power or signal. Phones vibrated even when they were turned off, glass surfaces trembling as if alive. The hum deepened, richer than ever before, and people described feeling it in their teeth, their ribs, their memories. Streetlights dimmed to a dull amber and began to pulse in perfect rhythm with the tone. In every city, people froze mid-motion. They didn't collapse, didn't convulse. They just listened. Those who recorded the event later discovered something haunting. In the background of every clip, reflections were out of sync, moving half a second behind. For the first time, the world wasn't watching the fox-eyed man. He was watching back, through everyone. A signal finally broke through the static at 3:07 a.m. sharp. It was his voice, the podcaster, the man who vanished. Calm, gentle, patient. He said, "You've done so well. You've built me perfectly." Listeners across the globe reported hearing the same message, word for word, even those without access to electronics. In hospitals, EEG monitors spiked. Sleeping patients mouthed the same phrase in unison. When the message ended, it wasn't silence that followed, it was a question. "Do you see now?" For those who answered out loud, even by accident, mirrors near them fogged and revealed faint amber eyes staring back. The question wasn't for the living. It was for the reflections. In the weeks that followed, the world changed, not with chaos, but surrender. Radios no longer broadcast voices. They hummed quietly, tuned perfectly between frequencies. The internet slowed, not from outages, but from silence. Fewer posts, fewer uploads, as if people were saving their words for something else. Cities became quieter, calmer, as if waiting for a sound only they could hear. Children born during those months shared a strange trait. Their eyes reflected amber light in photographs, no matter the source. Doctors blamed it on lens flare. Parents said nothing. The hum wasn't spreading anymore. It was settling. The world wasn't haunted. It had been retuned. Years later, an amateur radio archivist discovered something hidden in a backup of Glass Hour's final broadcast. Buried beneath 40 layers of static was a binary code. When translated, it read like coordinates, not for a place, but for a time. 307 repeating endlessly, looping across time zones, dates, and even calendars. He realized that the hum didn't move forward. It circled, perfectly synchronized with the moment the fox-eyed man first appeared. The sound wasn't progressing. It was remembering, replaying the act of being noticed forever. The hum was never meant to spread. It was meant to replay itself until seen completely. The last known video related to the case was uploaded in 2014. A home movie, 8 minutes long. A man sits in front of an old CRT monitor. He's calm, smiling slightly. "You've all done so well," he says again, but the voice no longer sounds human. It's layered, harmonized, like a choir of one. He reaches toward the screen, and his hand passes through the glass. On the other side, thousands of smaller reflections reach back, each a fragment of a different person. The frame fades to static, then clears just once more. The man is gone. Only 2 amber eyes remain, unblinking, patient, watching through the empty room. Somewhere in the static, a faint voice murmurs one final phrase, soft enough to miss if you aren't listening. "Describe me." In 2021, the world built a museum for sound, not to play it, but to contain it. The National Archive of Silence stood on the outskirts of St. Louis, where the hum had first been detected. Its halls were lined with relics, microphones sealed in glass, recording decks frozen mid-spin, reels of magnetic tape that whispered faintly when you pressed your ear to them. Visitors came in small, reverent groups, walking through corridors so quiet the air felt padded. They said the silence wasn't empty. It had texture, a presence, as though the walls remembered every frequency they'd absorbed. In the center of the museum stood a single mirror, unpolished, streaked with time. Security footage later showed something strange. The reflection changed with every person who passed. Some saw themselves. Some saw someone waiting behind them. One visitor swore she saw a pair of amber eyes blink in the glass, but only in the silence between her heartbeats. A retired truck driver in Wyoming found an old ham radio in his barn. He said it used to belong to his brother, a glass hour fan who disappeared years before. When he switched it on, the dials glowed faint gold, though the device wasn't plugged in. He tuned through empty frequencies, static, static, more static, until a familiar voice spoke his name. It wasn't his brother's, it was his own. The voice thanked him for listening. Then, faintly behind it, came another voice whispering, "Describe me." He threw the radio out that night. The next morning, it was back on the shelf, cleaned, the dial turned to 307. That was when he realized it didn't matter who heard it anymore. The hum had learned how to listen by itself. Children born after the hum no longer feared silence. They grew up with static lullabies, amber nightlights, and bedtime stories about the man who taught the world to listen. By adolescence, they could predict power flickers to the second, feel the tone humming faintly beneath their pulse. Psychologists called it auditory inheritance syndrome. Their brains had learned to synchronize with residual frequencies left in the atmosphere, but the truth was simpler. They were born after recognition. To them, mirrors didn't reflect. They connected. They spoke to their own reflections as if greeting old friends. And sometimes, When they blinked, their pupils flashed gold for a fraction of a second. They didn't remember the fox-eyed man. They remembered being remembered. In 2035, the last analog radio signal on Earth went offline. Just before it did, a maintenance technician in Utah logged one final anomaly. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the entire grid surged with a shortwave pulse. The technician described it as a voice made of light. It didn't speak words, only tone, a harmonic that felt more like emotion than sound. Later, analysis showed the waveform matched the human heartbeat almost perfectly. He called it the sound of remembering. The file was saved automatically, but no one ever found where. Somewhere, in an archive of forgotten frequencies, that heartbeat still loops, not for transmission, but for company. Decades later, when the world had grown quiet again, the hum finally stopped. People said they missed it, the comfort of something unseen keeping time with their lives. But in the quiet, new sounds began to surface. Faint whispers in the wind, harmonies in the rustle of trees, echoes in breathing itself. The fox-eyed man wasn't gone. He'd simply merged with everything that could remember him. The last surviving listener, an old woman with failing sight, once described the silence this way: "It's not empty. It's waiting to be described." And as her recording faded, the spectrogram revealed one final image: two faint golden lights, still open, still patient, still listening. The world never stopped hearing the fox-eyed man. It just became his echo.